What do you say, guys? Cubs have completed a trade. We're going to talk about that. They get some young prospects back. They trade Mark Leiter Jr. to the Yankees. Interesting deal. One that we kind of saw coming. We talked about it yesterday. We felt like this was a possibility, and it certainly was. I've got some insight on who the Cubs are getting back in return and kind of what this makes the roster look like without Mark Leiter Jr. But trade deadline's not over. That's why I wanted to jump on live with you guys right now and talk about this particular trade and what things look like moving forward. Thanks for hanging out with us on the Cubs Baseball channel. Make sure that you guys like and subscribe, and thank you for being part of what we're doing here. And let's talk about these trades. Let's talk about this trade right now and give you some background on these prospects that the Cubs have coming their way. What do you say, everybody? It's Mick Gillespie. Here's the trade. The New York Yankees and the Cubs are in agreement on a trade that'll send Mark Leiter Jr. to the Yankees and infielder Ben Cowles and Jack Neely to the Cubs. All right, first off, talking about Mark Leiter Jr., the Yankees are getting a late-inning pitcher that has been fantastic. You couldn't have asked for a better pitcher over the last couple of seasons for the Cubs. He has been great on and off the field. He's someone that I think we all have really enjoyed watching. And he's a player that I think helps the Yankees a lot. I mean, if the Yankees are going to beat out the Orioles, if they're going to beat out Houston, then they're going to need a guy like Mark Leiter Jr. to get in there and make things happen. You know, they're going to want somebody that they can count on in close games. He's certainly that guy. We've seen it up front as you know, the son of a former major leaguer, Mark Leiter Sr., has been fantastic. And his numbers don't even really do him justice. He's got a 4.21 ERA, 39 games, 36 and a third innings, 53 strikeouts. But, you know, he was pitching injured there and needed some time off. This is going to be like a homecoming for this guy, too. He's from Tom Rivers, New Jersey, 33 years old, and he's under control until 2026. So congratulations to him for getting this opportunity. The Cubs aren't going to make the playoffs. The Yankees are. The Yankees strive for a World Series championship every year. I wish the Cubs were more like that. I think that's what we want. I think that's what the organization hopes that they'll become someday. But right now, the Yankees getting Mark Leiter Jr. makes them a much better team. Now, as an organization, you look back at that trade that it took to get Paredes from the Tampa Bay Rays. You had to give up two really good young pitchers. You gave up one guy and Tyler Johnson, who was up and coming, was in the lower levels of the minor leagues. Looks like he's going to be a big league starter. We'll see what the Rays do with him. And then you gave up a guy who is potentially your next closer, and Biggie, Hunter Biggie. So you needed to replace them, right? You got the guy you wanted at third base. We've solidified that position. He'll make his debut for the Cubs tonight. Now you go out and you replace him, and the Cubs replace him with Jack Neely. Neely is an exciting young pitcher. He's a super confident guy. He's out of San Antonio. Yankees took him after he played for 4 different colleges in 4 years, finished up at Ohio State in the 11th round, pick 333 in 2021. As a minor leaguer, he has been great. 11-7 record, a 2.75 ERA, all in relief, 113 games with 20 saves. This year, he's been predominantly in AAA in the Yankees chain, but he spent some time in AA as well. Well, actually, I take that back. 22 games in AA, and now he's been in AAA, Scranton, Wilkes-Barre for the last 9 games. But a strikeout thrower, a guy who had 30 in 31 innings in AA, had 51 strikeouts and a 2.61 ERA. In Scranton, AAA, 1-1 record, 3.38 ERA, and more strikeouts, right? 10 innings, 12 strikeouts. What I love about him and what I'm hearing about him is that this guy, Jack Neely, is super confident. He says, hey, look, I'm throwing 2 pitches. Fastball, slider, you can't hit them. And that's kind of been his attitude, kind of in a fun way. I'm sure the Cubs are looking at him as being the potential setup guy of the future. You love the confidence, and you love the fact that he can throw a lot of break or shape on the slider, and then the velocity on the fastball is like 90, 97, 96, 97, 94, somewhere in that range, has some movement. This is a really good pitcher. This was a guy that the Yankees probably were surprised at just how good he was, taking him, but that's what happens when you go out in these drafts and you take guys, how do they develop? But I think Cubs fans are going to like the fact that he's got great stuff. And then mentally, he's a really tough kid, Jack Neely. So excited there. Now, Ben Cowles is another player who will slot into that, can play any of the infield positions, third base, shortstop, second base, kind of can float around the diamond, and really figured it out at the end of last season, and followed it through. I mean, he only hit 254 in the Sally League last year, which is high A for the Yankees, right? And had some pop, 10 home runs, 41 knocked in, but spent, a week or so in AAA, worked with the AAA hitting coach. And the guy's like, hey, you got some holes in your swing. Here's the things that you can do to get better. And so had a couple hits and his at bats up there, came back this year and has been a force. Has really been a great hitter, hitting 294, one of the top hitters in the Eastern League. And then his on base percentage of 376, fantastic. 9 home runs, 51 batted in for him, and also 39 walks in his 88 games. So this guy went to Maryland. This guy also would have played with Matt Shaw out of Maryland. He was drafted 2021. Of course, Shaw was last year's Cubs first round pick, but they would have intersected at Maryland with the Terps. Yankees took him 10th round, pick 303, right? Both of these guys are, listed on the prospect guides towards the bottom, but I'm guessing that with Cowles, a 6-foot, 180-pound infielder, right-handed batter, 24 years old, you're just looking like, hey, this is a depth guy. This is a guy that has really shown some upside. But the guy that you really like in this deal is Neely, because you're giving up someone who right now is basically the same type of guy. Comes in, late innings, throws strikes, gets to strikeouts, has great stuff in Leiter. And then when you make a trade like this, basically you're getting a little younger, you're getting rid of a little bit of payroll, and then you're getting 2 players for the price of 1. So that's what the deal is. I'm expecting this. Hey, look, I nailed this one. You guys know it. I said I thought Mark Leiter Jr. will go to the Yankees. So boom, 1 for me. And that show that we did yesterday, I don't think it took Einstein to figure out that the Yankees want to be one of those teams that didn't let Mark Leiter Jr. pass them up for somebody else, right? But I mean, as we sit here, I'm just continue to look and see when the next deal is going to be made. So I think that this signals what we expected from the Cubs at the deadline. We expected the Cubs that we're going to get rid of some of these guys. They were going to try to get younger. But I thought, and this is what they're doing, they're not going really young because that wouldn't make sense. You get guys that are triple double A that will be able to compete for spots on the big league roster. And then the other thing is that I was told by someone that's very familiar with Neely, do not be surprised if this guy's not in the big leagues at some point this season. So he's right on the verge of getting into the major leagues and being a force that the Cubs could have late in that back end bullpen. So maybe a replacement not only for Leiter Jr., but also for having somebody that, you just gave up Biggie. He's a comparable arm and obviously someone that you really feel good about. So that's the trade. That's where we are right now. Comment section. Let me take a couple of comments from you guys and we'll see what's going on. Joey says, come on, Jed, let's get a few more deals done today. I'm all about that. I love when they make trades. Yeah. And that's just what I said, Ross. You get Neely back in the Biggie trade. I wanted to know what Jed Hoyer's game plan is with this organization. And if I'm putting myself in the Ricketts shoes and Tom Ricketts shoes, and I'm saying, okay, this hasn't been the season that we wanted. Now, there's been a lot of factors, including injuries, that are part of this. And you have to be open-minded to that. But I want to know where we're going from where we are right now, because the roster that we had last night that got their butts kicked by the Reds is not a World Series championship roster. But you get Bellinger back, you get Paredes, who you just traded for. All of a sudden, your lineup's a little bit better. What are you doing? Is Jameson Taillon getting traded? He's got, we didn't know this, but he's got 10 teams on his contract that he can veto a trade. Is he willing to do that? He didn't look too good last night, but I'm sure part of that was mental. So I think that's definitely something to keep an eye on. Neely has a huge strikeout side, and Cowles improved. I'm telling you, man, I've heard some really good things about Cowles, and we're going to really like having him in the organization. So this is one of those trades where you rely on your scouts. You send these guys out. They're not only watching how a player plays, how they interact with their teammates, how they take all of their early work, how they do their batting practice, how they hit a breaking ball, what kind of teammates they are, how they know the game. And you go out and you try to find these guys, because when you make a trade like this, Mark Leiter Jr. to me was one of the best trade chips that the Cubs had. And now you've thrown that out to the Yankees. But what I like about doing deals with the Yankees is that that they're not afraid to give up talent, because their whole goal is to win a World Series. It's not to keep minor leaguers. All right. Nene says, get rid of Neris, Bodie, and Wisdom. You got to have guys on the other end for that. I think of this group, that Neris is the one that probably makes the most sense. Wisdom, I mean, what's the market for a guy that can't play the field but hits for power occasionally, strikes out a lot? I don't know. I like Bodie, but he's got a $5.5 million contract. Neris could be someone you deal. Maybe go back to the Astros, where they're trying to bring that personality back. They know what he's been around. He's been part of their team. They may bring him back just because they need a reliever, and they also want him in the clubhouse. He's been a great clubhouse guy. So, we'll see what happens there. DJ says that Leiter's been hurt a lot. All these pitchers have been hurt a lot, man. I mean, that's kind of like, it's crazy how many guys get hurt, but also part of that is that you're trying to throw as hard as you can every single time. So, we'll see what happens. If we make another trade, come right back here and I'll jump on with you guys and we'll talk about it. I had to make a few calls when this happened, because I wanted to get the information on the prospects. We know what Mark Leiter Jr. can do, but we needed to know what Cowles we're getting in Cowles. What are we getting in Neely? And I'm telling you right now, the thing that I love the most about what they're telling me about Neely is that the guy will tell you, hey, I throw 2 pitches, hit him if you can, but you can't. I love those kind of guys. I think you need them in the clubhouse. You need them in the bullpen. And so if you're going to get rid of Mark Leiter Jr., you're obviously looking for the next guy, and maybe this is the next guy. All right, hey, thanks. We'll talk to you guys again as soon as something else breaks. Like and subscribe. Make sure that you're part of what we're doing here, and share with your Cubs friends. We really appreciate you guys being here, and exciting day. We'll see what happens from here on out, but go Cubs.